I asked for general mental health questions, again, on turnerschurch.com. If you want to ask and have answered any kind of mental health question. And I got a question regarding mother and daughter issues. So I wanted to address that. And the question is, I have a question that many other women may have. The situation between me and my mother is not pretty. I have ran across several women where their relationships with their mother isn't good. How do you deal with coming from a woman that completely rejects you? It's hard to understand that, especially if she has done you dirty. Okay, that's what I think I read that all right. There's a few spells in there. It's okay. So first things first, when you are grown, family is unique in the sense that you love them the most and they can cut you like a knife and cut you deeply. And it's very difficult for us to bounce back from the offenses of our family members. And I'm really choosing my words carefully. I can see that in the sense that, you really want to think about it in the sense, but we tend to give outsiders a little bit more leeway than we do our families, because even if we have had this rough and tumble with our families, we do still love them. They are actually connected to us in some way, shape, or form. We have the same bloodlines. We have the same mannerisms. We look the same, those types of things. So when they are not doing what we think they should be doing, we are doubly offended and hurt and in pain regarding them. And mother-daughter issues tend to be a little even more so complicated at times. If your mother was not somebody who learned how to love, who had much affection, and particularly depending on which generation you grew up in as a Black person, that can be the case. I remember speaking on my own terms, is meeting my grandmother when I was a teenager, and when I met her and she was a hot mess, I realized, oh, okay, that's why my mom, my aunts have their issues, because you see somebody who also had issues. And unfortunately, because we are still learning, and again, because we are coming from we are descendants and continuing to go into new generations of recycling bad behavior, recycling bad advice, recycling misinformation, not having an opportunity to get our heads in this mental game of life, and mourn and deal with our pain, because they tell us we don't feel pain. They've done all these things to us to say we're not even fully human. So we are a lot of times dealing with that in terms of what our parents have gone through. Maybe they never were hugged or emotional, because you're just trying to survive. Your parents don't hug you. Your parents don't love you. They are detached. And of course, it manifests themselves because broken people break people. Hurting people hurt people. Black people tend to recycle abuse, oppression, bad behavior, those types of things because of what we're dealing with. So it's difficult because your mom is maybe a broken person, is a hurting person. And the only way that she is going to continue to communicate is in this negative space. And this is when, you got to love them from a distance. You have to put space between them. You have to set up boundaries. You have to set up rules. You have to set up guidelines, and you have to stick to those things. You want to have them in your life, but it has to be according to your terms. You do not want to be in a space where you are continuing. And I'm very tough love, as you can hear. You don't want to be in a space where you're continuing to accept abuse. You can make mistakes and want to repair the situation, and you will see that from people. It's not always easy. I've gone through that too, where you hurt somebody and you want to go back and try to change things and make things better. And sometimes you really do. They have to be to the point where they are just willing to listen. The person who I guess did the hurting has to just listen to the person who is hurt. And that has to be enough, because you can't go back. That incident happened one time. Every time after that is just you remembering the last time you remember. That's how it works. If I just put up my hand and said all of that, that happened. And now every time I talk about it, I'm just remembering the last time I remembered it. And that's kind of how you have to approach when you are dealing with coming to terms with being rejected by a woman who gave birth to you, who's carried you for almost a year, and yet she's so detached and she's so distant. It's not you. It isn't about you. It is about her. And you are making it about you because you feel, according to you, that you have this set of lists, this laundry list of definitions and of behaviors and of thinking of how she should be acting and behaving towards you. And she is not fulfilling that list, a list she doesn't know anything about. She is also working from her list. So if you can imagine that, you all are working from two different lists that neither one of you have access to see. Sometimes it's just written on your brain. My mom is supposed to be treating me like this. My daughter is supposed to be this. So it's those types of instances where you have to understand now that you have to kind of create a new dynamic. Sometimes loving them from a distance, sometimes further back. You can always love them. They have the love them with the love of the Lord, agape love, right? And you can make it known that you want to heal the relationship, but there has to be some guidelines to getting you there. But if you are still focusing on she did me dirty, that's probably not the place you want to start. So you want to start now where write it out or speak it into a microphone or something where you get clear on what the situation is so that you can hear it played back for yourself. And how does it sound when you say it aloud? How do those things work when you work them out of your head now and you kind of verbalize them? Does it make sense to you when you hear it? And go from there. I know that may sound harsh, but it's the truth a lot of times because parents are not perfect. Parents owe us an apology, but it may be an apology that you never get, that may never be coming, or may just not come the way that you want it to come. So as an adult, if you have been so fortunate and they did their job of just pushing your big head out, 9 months, some 25 years ago, and now you got to walk on and walk through this journey in your life and deal with sometimes these little pains because you wish they had done right by you. Sometimes you have to do that, and you have to create, family that is the family that you say family is, in addition to the family that you were born into. A question regarding just a spouse who wanted to know how to support his new wife. They had just recently been married, and he just wanted to know how to support her because she had a teenage daughter die of cancer, and he just wanted to know what it is that he should do. So that's not just one of my written questions. I have a written question, but I'm just going to read that. Just going to kind of elaborate on that one a little bit. Just be there. Just be the moral support. Acknowledge and again, celebrate life, especially if you have somebody who died in some tragic way. All death is tragic and severe in some way, shape, or form, unless, a lot of times we say old people, they lived a good life and things like that. But a lot of times if it's somebody young, it's difficult to just, not be shocked in some way. But you can still celebrate how they lived as opposed to mourning how they died and getting that to be your focus. To get to the point where you're celebrating the life, it's okay to have a mini altar, a mini shrine. How can you year by year continue to kind of let them go, but at the same time understand that they are always with you, that now you actually have access to them 24/7 whenever you want. And when you sleep, you wake up and go, hi, dad, or, hi, grandma, and be able to talk to them and at a moment's notice. You also can have, again, some sort of altar shrine, but it can be as the years get in, you're worried about forgetting them. They're never forgotten. You just have to have them in a new way for you. There's a new process for how they're going to be in your space with you. So that's what you want to think about, and you just be that support and help your significant others, your spouse, in that way, to let them know, okay, how about we start doing this? Make a process, plan it out. What is the process going to be for how you are going to celebrate the life of that person who is no longer here in the physical form? Okay, final question. Should you have a celebration of life ceremony party for elderly parents, loved ones, etc.? Okay, so that was the next question. Good question. Yes, I think sometimes we already take a lot of our old people for granted, and particularly with other cultures, Black people aren't as bad with it. We tend to have our grandparents and stuff with us as they get older, whereas other cultures, particularly white people, put um, their white is, there's some basis for that in the sense of maybe they can afford to put people in homes and we can't, but we don't put our family for the most part in homes. A lot of times they are with us as long as we can take care of them, our old people. But I think that it's good to think about having ceremonies for your older loved ones if they are not offended by it. Some people might be. Don't be barren, don't be putting me in the ground before I'm in the ground, but you just want to be able to say the nice things for them. Celebrate their life, what you appreciate, how they've impacted you, what they've done in their lives that has helped you in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I think a lot of celebration of life ceremony, especially if you have older people, 70 years old, 75, 80 years old, that are still here, to let them hear all of the wonderful things that you think about them and have birthday parties for them and so on and so forth. You should do that for everybody, but especially for the old people in your life. So yes, I think that is the case. I hope that was helpful for you. This was the first episode, and I'm really glad that we got a chance to do it. And I will see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.